Welcome to another Mr. Jim's Hot Rod Barn video. This is part 2 of the carburetor, small engine carburetor repair. Wanted to hit on a few highlights that I didn't talk about in the first video, and just show you right quick. I'm trying to make this video kind of short and sweet here. But one issue was the float adjustments on the brass floats, which I talked about and didn't really go into a lot of detail. And here's one thing to look at. This float right here has a crack all the way in it. So this float would definitely be no good. If you put it in a little cup of gasoline, it would just you hold it down for a second, it would sink to the bottom. And you know, it's a float, so it's not supposed to sink. So you know, definitely that's a issue there. But I was going to show y'all on this how to do a simple adjustment on them. There's a tab right here on the, as you flip it back, and you can take that tab, and like right now this float would be sitting at a good level. Looks pretty good as far as the adjustment would be on it. But what you'd want to do if it was, you wanted to set it where it was a little lower, if the carburetor tended to flood, things like that, you bend this tab out that way. So you do it that way. So now you can see when the carburetor is at that float is way low. Okay, but that's how you would lower it, is to bend that tab. Once you take it, flip it this way, you bend this little tab out, away from the float. Now obviously if you go the other way with it and push it inward, let's see if we can push it down here. Okay, if you bend it down the other way, then you'd have a tendency of the float sitting like this, which would be too high. Because I say too high because you're gonna, it's actually working. It would be this way once the bowl was full of fuel. It would be up too high on the carb. As the fuel gets used, the float drops down and lets that needle open up. Right here, lets that little needle slide back and let fuel flow around it. Now, that's with that being like that, obviously, it would be way too high. The fuel bowl would just keep filling up, and then obviously it would start overflowing out of the top of the fuel bowl. So that's the basics on the float. Like I said, the best way is most of them will sit pretty much a level like that, without your finger on it. But then to always check them, because this float right here is obviously deteriorated, no good. You can see I just peeled it all apart there, and it's just a hollow little brass ring. So you know, you get one like that, get you a replacement, take that one off, throw it away, and go from there. Okay, the other thing I talked about was the Welch plugs. Those were on some of the older Tecumseh engines. I'm not sure if there's some others that use them as well. But the Welch plugs I found on the Tecumseh engine, and here's one that I removed. You drill a hole in it and take a sheet metal screw and just screw it in there, and they will pop out of the hole. Just pop out. And then there's some small little passages in there. Take you a fine wire. I usually take like a twist tie off the bread, loaf of bread, something like that. Strip the paper off, and just take that little wire and clean those little holes out, and maybe blow some air through them. Make sure, you know, make sure all that area in there is good and clean. And because what happened with one I had, it would crank up and run for about maybe 10 or 15 seconds and stall, and you could fire it back up again, it'd do the same thing, and it was just a repeat. It never would idle. It would idle for a few seconds, you know. It would sit there and idle, and then it would just die out. And I pulled the Welch plugs out, cleaned behind them, obviously have to get a new one once you punch a hole in it, but they come in the little rebuild kits, and you know, just check, make sure they're the right size before you pop them out and things like that. But yeah, the easiest way to do it and I'll show you on this one here, is just take you a small drill bit, put it in your little electric drill, just until it goes through the plug. Then you want to stop. Certainly don't want to drill through the carburetor. I'm going to show you how to take this Welch plug out. Once you've got that hole drilled into the Welch plug, take you a sheet metal screw and start it into the hole, and then just simply thread it into the Welch plug with a screwdriver. And out it comes. Take it out, and again, you just want to make sure those passages are free in there, clear. It looks like this one's got some trash in it. Of course, this is the old carb that I'm just using for demos, but there's two little holes right here on it. Make sure your metal shavings obviously get cleaned out of there as well from your drill. But there's two little holes in this one right there. Some of them have another Welch plug in the bottom. This one has one in here too, and the same thing. Just drill a little hole in it and start you a sheet metal screw. This carburetor actually had two in the bottom, and I pulled one of them out. There's a big passage actually under that one. Didn't take the other one out, but anyway, if they get any of those passages get clogged up, it'll cause rough running, poor, performance, things like that. So you just want to make sure those are clear. You go to replace them. They come in the rebuild kits. You can get them. I can even go by a lawnmower shop and pick them up if they've got them, or order them online, something like that. But when you go to put them back in, there are. I'll use this one. They're actually caved in, concaved on one side and convexed on the other. So you take the concaved or the dish side and place it downward, and then you just find a small little punch and a hammer, and you just tap it back down flat, and that's really all there is to them. You can maybe use a small socket, something like a little 1/4-inch socket, put it on there, tap it down with a hammer, and should be good to go. Once it's nice level, the plug stays in, you're all set. But clean it out first, take the plugs out first, put it in your solvent tank, and then when you go to put it all back together, that's when you want to put your plugs back in it. Okay, I'm going to go over a few simple adjustments on these carbs that have the mixture screws, and a few more things than the John Deere carb had. This is an old Tecumseh 3 horsepower go-kart engine that I'm saying this is probably 40 years old, somewhere in that era. Anyway, put some fresh fuel in it, and this is a replacement carburetor that I ordered on eBay, which actually is probably your best bet as far as one of these, because I didn't pay but like $10 for the carburetor, brand new. So, but I have had to go in it and clean it out since we've had it. So I had to just drop the bowl on it, things like that. The one I demonstrated on was actually the old one off of here, and if you look back, you can see how corroded it was, and it was just really bad. So I got a new one, and it's been working good. So let's turn the fuel switch on up here. It's up under the steering. Okay, now with some fresh fuel, and we got it choked, we should be ready to go here. Okay, now this one's been adjusted out. Actually, it runs really well, but I'll demonstrate on it a little bit and show you what happens. First thing here, the screw on top is simply your idle speed. If you turn it up, get on it. Engine will speed up. Turn it back. Slow it down. You want to keep it low, but keep it where it's smooth and it'll stay running. It's probably a little too low there. I like to get it right about in there. Usually sounds pretty good. Stays running. So that's usually pretty good. Your main screw, this one on the bottom, that controls the main fuel mix. Usually you have to adjust that with it actually mid-throttle. I raised it up so hopefully you can see. I'll try to video this. What you want to do there is run it about mid-throttle and try to get it to where the engine runs at its highest RPM. It's actually where it smooths out the best, gets the most power out of it. And the last thing, we'll go back and turn this idle down just a little. That's good. And last but not least is your idle mixture screw on the side. See if it's turned back a little bit. It's the most sensitive at idle, and it will kill the engine off. So let's start it back up and get it adjusted back. Seems pretty good. So, that's basically what there is on the adjustments. Now usually you go to adjust it, you probably have to adjust this main one out first and kind of keep it running. And then you can adjust this mixture up a little bit to keep it running. Go ahead and set that main one at the bottom first. That way you get your main mixture pretty straight. Then you try to idle it down if it doesn't want to idle down, and stay running, you're going to have to adjust on this idle screw to get it to adjust out. And once you get it all done, then you make your final adjustment back up here and idle it down to a good normal speed. Then just check it from there. But make those adjustments with your choke open once your engine is warmed up. So you're going to have to keep it, you may have to keep it running until you get it warmed up. You can adjust some on that main mixture to help it out. When I bought this carb and got it, I put it on here out of the box. It did not want to stay running at all. It barely would run, and the main mixture screw was like turned way out. I bet I turned it in 6 or 7 turns to even get it to stay running. But other than that, the carburetors worked great. It's like I said, I paid like $10 for it on eBay and fixed this go-kart. That was a freebie. You know, somebody gave it to me and said, here, you know, see if you can do something with it, give it to your kids. So that's where it is, you know. And so now it's the next project on this one is just we're going to sandblast it and repaint it and make it look like something. But the kids have had a blast on it. It runs great. So, you know, just a fun little toy for them. All right, leave any comments below if you got any questions on these carburetors, anything. If I can help you, shoot me a message and I'll try to answer it for you. Thanks again, and you know, hey, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you like the channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on anything from small engines to, you know, big block V8s. So you know, just let me know what you think about things, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot.